Welcome to Things You Don't Know, the podcast where hidden histories and unexpected ideas come to life.
Today, we're diving into a subject that sits right at the crossroads of philosophy, psychology, and physics. A subject that people either swear by or dismiss as a pseudoscience.
Yeah, yeah, we're talking about manifesting, the belief that your thoughts and intentions can shape your reality.
And there's far more to it than just the vision boards and daily affirmations you've seen on Instagram. We'll go deeper into the history of the idea, the psychology behind it, and yes, even the so called quantum manifestation movement.
At its simplest, manifesting is the practice of focusing your thoughts and emotions on something you want in order to bring it into your life. The idea is that your inner state and outer reality are connected.
Thank you for defining that, Dr. Weaver. As far as I know, some people frame it spiritually, saying your thoughts send out energetic frequencies. Let's pause here for a second and define that. An energetic frequency in the spiritual sense refers to the idea that every thought and emotion vibrates at a certain level, and the universe responds by sending you experiences that match. In physics, frequency means the number of waves that pass a point per second, but in manifesting, it's metaphorical, more about mood and attitude than literal radio waves.
On the other hand, psychology offers a grounded explanation. When you focus on a goal, your behavior, perception, and even your brain's filtering systems change. You start noticing opportunities that match your goal.
Manifesting as we know it today has its roots in the spiritual New Thought movement of the late 1800s. Writers like Phineas Quimby and later Napoleon Hill believed, and this is also from the Science of Mind movement, the concept that thoughts are things.
But if you zoom further back, you find echoes of manifesting in many traditions. In Hindu philosophy, intention or sankalpa is a powerful force shaping destiny. In Hermeticism, the phrase as above, so below suggests a link between the mental and material realms. Even medieval alchemy was partly about inner transformation, creating outer results.
So, ladies and gentlemen, this isn't just a new Instagram fad. It's a very old human desire to believe our minds can shape the world.
Modern manifesting uses a few common tools. Affirmations, those are positive statements repeated daily, like, I am confident and successful. Vision boards, collages of images and words that represent your goals, and some people have found that useful. Scripting, that's journaling as if your desired life has already happened, acting as if. Gratitude practice, listing things you're thankful for to raise your vibration, so to speak.
I'm glad you mentioned acting as if. We often use that in the theater programs I've done with people with exceptionalities. And while the spiritual camp sees these concepts and ideas as sending signals to the universe, psychology sees them as reshaping your self-concept and your behavior.
Here's where things get pretty interesting. Over the last decade, some teachers have linked manifesting to quantum physics. Yeah, they call it quantum manifestation.
For the benefit of us mere mortals, Dr. Weaver, let's slow down for a minute and define some terms. Quantum theory is the branch of physics that studies the tiniest building blocks of reality, particles like electrons and photons. At this level, matter just doesn't behave like solid billiard balls. It behaves in strange ways that defy common sense. Superposition is the idea that a particle can exist in multiple states or locations at once, like being in two places simultaneously until it is measured.
That is a very difficult concept for many people. Let's just slow down on that just a second. That a particle can exist in different states or locations simultaneously until it's measured.
That almost sounds like a multiverse theory.
In some ways it is. It's a little bit more complex than that, but let's go forward. I just wanted to reify that so that, people would understand the complexity of it.
I appreciate that very much. Wave particle duality means that these particles can behave like solid particles or like waves, depending on how we look at them. And then there's Schrodinger's cat. Those of you who watch The Big Bang Theory will remember this idea. A thought experiment by physicist Erwin Schrödinger in 1935. He said, imagine a cat in a sealed box with a quantum trigger. Until you open the box, the cat is both alive and dead at the same time, existing in superposition. Your observation collapses the differing possibilities into one outcome.
What a great way to put that. It collapses the possibilities into one outcome. In other words, it locks it in. Yeah. Quantum manifestations take this metaphor and say, just like the observation collapses a wave of possibilities into reality, in other words, locking it into a certain reality or position, your thoughts and focus collapse the infinite possibilities of your life into the one you experience.
That's a little heavy. In other words, every vision of your future exists in potential. The one you consistently focus on is the one that materializes in reality.
Boy, aren't we facing that kind of crap right now?
We sure are.
Both in your life and in my life, and in fact, in the life of most of the people in this nation.
I'm sorry to say you're correct.
And let's be clear, most physicists will say this is somewhat of a misuse of quantum mechanics. They like to look mainly at things outside of the psychological, mental, emotional aspects of things. Quantum behavior is proven at the particle level, which is weird, but applying it to careers, relationships, and, well, maybe cars or wealth or whatever is somewhat of a stretch for many people.
But here's the catch, ladies and gentlemen. The metaphor is very powerful. Thinking of your dream life as already existing in potential form makes it feel more attainable. And that belief changes your behavior, which changes your outcome. Just to give a brief example from my own life, my doctorate degree took 14 years. And I remember from the very beginning thinking and dreaming and writing and doing all sorts of things not only to make this happen, but to feel the emotion that it had already happened. And I like to think it helped.
Indeed, it did. So even if quantum manifestation isn't literally bending atoms to your will, it can still bend you toward better results.
Let's bring the thought process back to science as we know it applies at the human level. The reticular activating system, or RAS, is the part of your brain that filters sensory input. The reticular activating system is a network of neurons in the brain stem that acts like a filter for attention. When infants are born, they get overstimulated. They can feel and think and experience everything all at once. And as we mature in life, we have to tamp that down a little bit. Out of the millions of bits of information you encounter every second, your RAS decides what gets through to your conscious mind. It works kind of like your brain's spotlight operator. Whatever you tell it is important, it highlights. Now, how does this very abstract idea relate to manifesting? Well, when you focus on a goal, say, I want to find opportunities to advance my career, your RAS treats that as a priority. Suddenly, you start noticing things you might have ignored before: a job posting that matches your skills, a conversation that hints at an opening somewhere, a book or a podcast that offers useful advice. This makes manifesting feel magical, but in reality, it's really your RAS filtering reality in line with your focus. So, in short, manifesting sets your RAS to filter for opportunities that match your goals. The more you visualize, work towards, and affirm something, the more your brain actively spots the pieces that can help bring it to life.
See, that is the core right there. That is the most significant thing. So I'm just going to repeat what you just said. Manifesting sets your reticular activating system to filter for opportunities that match your goals. The more you visualize and affirm something, the more your brain activity spots those pieces that sometimes remain almost invisible to us that helps bring it to life. You know, if you decide on a red Honda, okay, that you want a red Honda, you suddenly start seeing red Hondas everywhere. Not because they multiplied overnight, but because your brain now flags them as important.
That intuitively to me makes sense. And the same thing happens with opportunities. As we said, when you focus on a goal, you literally start noticing chances you'd otherwise ignore.
And when you add visualization, you're training your brain like an athlete running drills. Okay,
That's an excellent metaphor.
thanks. Studies show that imagining a physical activity activates many of the same neural pathways as actually doing it. Say that again. It activates many of the same neural pathways as actually doing it. I remember when I was playing football, almost every coach, well, every coach that I had would say, let's visualize this happening. And he would paint a scenario and we would see that in our minds. We would do that. Some of us did, some of us didn't. But, you know, it was funny because if you exerted your will and your vision to doing that very same vision in a game, more than more than by chance, it happened that way. So, how do you manifest in a way that blends the mystical with the practical? Here's a 5-step plan. Get specific. Don't just say, I want success. Define it. Spiritual. Speak it in the present tense. What I mean by that is don't say if or when or whatever that may be coming, because that's doubt. But speak it. Now that I have this, this will happen. Quantum. Imagine that version of you already exists. You're tuning into it. Another step, visualize daily. Spend 5 to 10 minutes each morning picturing your goal vividly. Feel the emotions of already living it. Third, align your actions, break your goal into micro steps, and act on them. Act on them consistently. Fourth, gratitude. List 3 things you're thankful for each night. Why? Well, it does build optimism and some resilience. That is something I use all the time, by the way. Stay open. Life may deliver your goal in unexpected packaging. Be flexible. Accept it when you see and allow your mind, through the filter of your RAS, to see that.
Now, to be reasonable, there's a few warnings here, folks. Don't fall into toxic positivity. It's okay to feel negative emotions. Sometimes they're the reality you're dealing with at the moment. Sometimes they don't, but they don't cancel your goals. Toxic positivity is the belief that you must maintain a constant state of optimism and deny or suppress negative emotions no matter what is happening in your real life.
Very Pollyannish, right?
Yes,
And totally useless. It actually leads you down the path of self-destruction.
sure, because when if things don't work out, you get into a cycle of shame and self-blame and resentment of people that are better off than you that wastes a lot of energy.
So you're saying that on the surface, it sounds kind of harmless? Who doesn't want to stay positive? But when it's taken too far, it screws you up, man. It creates total problems.
Yes, now we have to be honest. Constant negativity is counterproductive and unhelpful, as they used to say on my favorite childhood television program, Hee Haw, gloom, despair, and agony on me. That doesn't work either. It's trying to look at things as they are with the idea that with the right approach, things can change if they haven't changed yet. So, because manifesting emphasizes positive thoughts and high vibrational energy, people can feel pressured to suppress negative emotions, as I said, believing that sadness, anger, fear will block the manifestations. Sometimes someone going through grief may feel guilty for grieving because they think it will attract more pain. Or if something bad happens, they may think, I attracted this by thinking wrong thoughts. As I said, that leads to self blame instead of recognizing external factors like other people's actions, systematic problems, or bad luck. Toxic positivity can also encourage ignoring financial issues, health concerns, or relationship red flags in hopes that a positive attitude and vibes will fix it. This can delay taking necessary action and more so than that, responsibility. It reminds me of the televangelists of the 80s who would tell people, well, God will make you rich if you tithe, and get their minds focused on money at the expense of everything else.
Well, yeah, great example in my own personal life from that. Was I good at playing football? Yeah, I wasn't bad. Was I knew that I was not going to be a pro football player as much as I kind of wanted to. The reason why? Well, my physiognomy is not the best for that. And if I just focused on ignoring that and encouraging myself to do it, I think I would have been in a very different place and not a good one.
There would have been a real letdown when the reality hit you. I know as an educator, sometimes before I knew some of the things that you were kind enough to share with me, people believed that all student athletes had no future outside of going pro, and influenced a lot of things in not the best way.
Indeed, indeed. Let's move on. Manifesting works best when it's paired with emotional honesty and balanced thinking. Okay. One, acknowledge negative emotions. It's normal to feel frustrated, anxious, or sad. Processing those emotions doesn't ruin manifesting. In fact, it clears space for more authentic positivity. Use negatives as data. Fear or frustration can point out where you need support, better boundaries, or a new strategy. Reframe, don't deny. Instead of saying everything is great when it's not, you might say, this is really hard, but I believe I can find a path through it.
So, toxic positivity and manifesting oversimplifies life into good vibes equal good things, bad vibes equal bad things. But real growth comes from feeling emotion honestly, learning from them, and combining a positive focus with practical action. That balance makes manifesting empowering instead of harmful. It's very important to avoid victim blaming. Life's tragedies aren't always the result of low vibration. And don't expect results without action. Visualization is the fuel, but action is the engine to making something happen.
Exactamundo. Manifesting works best as a tool for focus and motivation, not as a magic spell.
From the ancient rituals to new thought philosophy to today's quantum metaphors, human beings have always believed that their thoughts shape reality.
And in a way, they do, whether through energy, psychology, or metaphor. Your focus does change your world.
So the next time, ladies and gentlemen, you hear someone say, I'm manifesting my dream life, remember, they may not be bending atoms, but they are bending themselves at least towards a possibility.
And that possibility might just be enough to change everything.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into manifesting. Until next time, keep your thoughts sharp, your goals clear, and maybe, just maybe, collapse a wave function or two into your favor. Give us a like, folks, comment, make suggestions, and please come back and see us again real soon.
Indeed. Hey, thanks for listening. Hang in there. Bye.